Hi, this is Dr. Toby, your host on Health and Wellness. What a delight and an honor to have you on our show. We're so privileged that you're here to see this show with Dr. Charlene Collier. Dr. Collier is an obstetrician trained in some of the best Ivy League universities in the country, did her undergrad medical school at Brown in New Hampshire, went on to Harvard to do a master's in public health, and then after her residency at Yale University in Connecticut and post-op she went up to do a 2-year fellowship in maternal health with another master's in tow. She's been working in the Mississippi area, the director of the Mississippi Perinatal Healthcare Collaborative. And she's worked also at the University of Mississippi Medical Center. She is a delight to listen to. She's a mother, she's a wife, she's a daughter, she's a sister, she's a physician, she's a public health advocate, and she's an obstetrician who cares for her community. You don't want to miss this. Jesus is Lord. Carry a number. Hi, this is Dr. Toby, your host on Health and Wellness. We're so delighted to have you on the show. This day we have a special guest all the way from Jackson, Mississippi, Charlene Collier. She's a board-certified obstetrician, gynecologist. She has an MPH from Harvard, another master's from Yale. She's trained at Brown University, grew up in New Jersey. Her litany of degrees and qualifications are legendary. She worked in Mississippi as a public health advocate for the Mississippi Perinatal Collaborative, and she's going to be sharing her heart for women of color and other women who have maybe disenfranchised in the healthcare system, and we now have a high mortality rate in maternal mortality. So it's a pleasure, it's an honor to have this talk with the one and only Dr. Charlene Collier. Real pleasure meeting you. Thank you again. What an honor to have you with us. So a lot of my viewers are from inner city Louisiana. They've never gone to Harvard, Yale. They've never walked in the halls of Brown. And here you are live in person in our TV studio talking to us from your Ivy League background. So tell us a bit about your upbringing. I mean, how did a young girl from New Jersey end up in the halls of Brown and Harvard and Yale?
Well, it's a blessing. I definitely didn't come from that or aspire for that necessarily. I was, like I said, born and raised in New Jersey. I wanted to be a doctor since I was 4. I don't know why. I think it was watching The Cosby Show. I don't have any doctors in my family. Just, something you ask a kid. You say, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I said doctor, and I stuck with that my whole life. And there's different kinds of doctors would change. Always surgical. I always thought I would be a surgeon of some form, and it was plastic surgery when I had a little mole removed as a kid, and then it was cardiothoracic surgery because I liked the show Chicago Hope at one point. I liked that, and then I was a runner. I was a track runner in high school, and I liked orthopedics. And then where I grew up in Englewood, very similar to communities like Monroe, predominantly Black, Latino, middle to lower income, public high school I was in, and a lot of issues started popping up, a lot of teen pregnancy, and I got very passionate about that, particularly like why my community was experiencing that and the communities around me were not. And
I thought Englewood was California, so there's Englewood.
No, I'm from New Jersey. Yeah, with an E. Englewood with an E.
With an E.
Yeah, it's right outside New York City, about 10-15 minutes outside of New York, and in Englewood with an E. But it's an interesting place because, this was 80s, 90s New Jersey. It was quite segregated. Many people think that of, being in the South, and North was different, but it was quite separated, and you could really see the differences in the health of the communities. And that's what really got me passionate about saying I wanted to solve some of those problems and understand them as a doctor. So that's what switched me from wanting to just do something surgical. And I said, well, I can't address teen pregnancy or these, infant mortality as an orthopedic surgeon. That's something that public health side of me really took hold, and obstetrics became, really what I was drawn to. So I decided to do OB that time in high school, and I really knew I wanted a career that
Were
combined.
you a valedictorian?
I was second.
Salut-
I was
salutatorian?
salutatorian. Yep.
Wow, okay.
But I didn't know much about, a recruiter from Brown came to my high school. I didn't, like I said, I didn't have a lot of family or friends. I had gone to those kind of schools, and thankfully they came, and I was blessed enough to get into their is an 8-year program, so you get straight through
4
college
years.
and medical school.
Oh,
Yep.
wow.
So I knew in high school I had a spot in medical school, and that's what really started it. But Brown was a great place to study things other than science and medicine. I studied those things, but I also did sociology.
Yeah, I saw that in your resume.
Yeah, I majored in sociology. I wanted to understand people and populations. We know so much of health is more than
Right.
health care. It's more than medical care. It's where you live. It's your community. It's your environment. It's things you're exposed to. Um, it's your stress levels, poverty, education, and that's much more than the
So
health system.
let's go back to Englewood.
Yeah.
It's not like Newark where you have gunshots on the
No.
shots and
It's like the
killings
step
and
outside
all-
Newark. It's a suburb where
Okay.
a lot of people move from. Like my mother moved from Jersey City,
Okay.
and my whole family was in Jersey City, and so
Oh.
this was the first home. Buying a home outside of that. So it's kind of that suburb environment where you do have, some of those elements are definitely there. It is, some of it's there, but it is a progression for
And were you
sure.
an only child?
No, I have a brother, older brother, Michael.
So
the two
you
of
you were
us,
raised
yeah.
by
My mom mostly, they were separated. My parents were separated kind of when I was young, and I love my dad, but my mom mostly
that's a
raised
story
me.
that
Yeah.
people haven't heard. I don't know if you want to
Yeah.
tell us. It's not easy for a single parent to
No.
raise two brilliant children. I presume your brother did great as well.
Well, no, my brother had his struggles too. He was very smart, but not good at school. I mean, he had a hard time in high school and getting through. And we were in the same home, but very different. He got in more trouble. I was, straight A student. He's brilliant for sure, but he struggled in that public school system, like a lot of young
Black
males do.
males,
Young
yeah.
black males do. Had a lot of trouble not getting the support he needed. But yeah, my mom worked very hard. She's here with me today with my boys. She
a
worked.
teacher?
She was a teacher, yeah. So she
Okay.
taught in Jersey City for 41, 42
Oh,
years.
wow.
Children with special health care needs,
Oh wow.
children who were deaf, who had developmental disabilities. So I really watched her be very compassionate with people from all
But
kinds of
did you have
backgrounds.
a male role model? Because
You know,
a lot of people say the lack of a male
Mm-hmm.
role model is the reason for a lot of sociological dysfunction in the
Yeah.
family. So from your experience, was there that real male role model?
I would say, like I said, my dad was around. He suffered from mental illness, so it was kind of couldn't help, what the situation he was in. But his father, my grandfather, was a major role model for me. It's very different than having them in the home. Certainly wasn't involved with conversations about boys or anything like that. So I think it was felt not having that as a constant presence. But my grandfather was a real inspiration for me, and somebody I looked up to. Taught me a lot about discipline. If you show up on time, you're late. You got 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. So
Okay.
listen more than you. So he was very good about that and set some of those pathways that helped me
Wow.
kind of get through. Because a lot of even in the public high school, it had a reputation of being a failing school. A lot.
Wow.
I remember when I got into Brown, I ran track, so I was running at the neighborhood track, and I had my Brown t-shirt on, and this couple saw me, and they assumed I went to the private high school in my town. And then when I told them I was from Dwight Morrow, they were like, "Oh, you must be one of the smart ones," or something like that. And they thought they were complimenting me, but it was clearly like
Right.
this view that, my high school didn't produce people that go to Brown. And so,
Wow.
but which wasn't true, of course, but it was an accomplishment to kind of to get to that level. I didn't take it for granted, and was very big, fortunate for me. So I didn't kind of set out. I didn't have a family that was
Right.
like, you have to go to all Ivy League. It was just one of those things. I was
So when you got to Brown,
Yeah.
I mean, you're a young 17, 18-year-old girl
Mm-hmm.
in a new setting. I think Brown is in New Hampshire or
it's in Rhode Island.
Rhode
It's in
Island.
Rhode
That's
Island.
not the most populated place in the
No,
world.
no.
And I'm sure you were predominantly in a Caucasian environment.
You know, Brown is it prides itself on being a diverse school.
Diverse
So
school, yeah.
like they said, they came and recruited in my
Mm-hmm.
neighborhood, which they didn't have to. You know, they had a very accomplished
Right.
private school in the same town. As I
Mm-hmm.
mentioned, Englewood was pretty segregated. So there was like a very wealthy side and
Mm-hmm.
not so wealthy
You know,
side.
Brown was a seminary. I think it was started by the Presbyterian
Yeah, I
Church
believe so,
or
if
the
I remember
Methodist,
my
one of them.
history. Yep,
Yeah.
if I
So.
remember my history. But,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it was a shock for me. The wealth differences was a big thing. You know, in fact, even meeting African American or black students who were millionaires or families were millionaires, that almost shocked me more. Like, I had never been around very wealthy people like that before. And
Oh, wow.
people were like, oh, we have a summer home and then we have this home. So that almost shocked me more than the racial
Oh,
differences,
wow.
was like socioeconomic differences, because I never had to be around people who were just multimillionaires.
Okay.
You know, father's the president of this company or that
Oh,
company.
wow.
So that seeing that wealth gap was a big shocker a little bit for me. But otherwise, I really loved the experience to
Mm-hmm.
learn and get up there. And
8 years is a long time.
in Rhode Island, yeah, it was a long time, but I enjoyed it. I
Mm-hmm.
loved. As I mentioned, I studied sociology, so I wasn't overexposed to too much of
Mm-hmm.
medical school. But when I got into medical school, I worked real hard. I
Oh,
definitely
wow.
put a lot of energy into it. And then during that time, that's when Harvard's not far from Brown. It's
Okay.
a little up the road at Boston, and they have a program for a master's in public health. So that's what got me up there.
Up
So
in Harvard, okay.
yep. So
I've been
that's
to Harvard, the red bricks and all
mm-hmm.
that. My
It's a
sister
lovely
did have
place. Yep.
MPH there.
Mhm.
So, yeah,
Okay, so we're
wealth,
fellow alumni.
yeah,
Yeah, it's a big deal. A
wealthy,
lot of money.
yeah.
But we did. Like I said, my mother worked hard. I took out loans for all of it. Loans, and she paid her part. But I
But
that
you
was
got a
part of
little
it.
scholarship.
I got some scholarships
Okay.
and some coverage. You do work study, but you make it happen. But it was worth it. I'm certainly grateful for.
And I know you published some papers and did some
Yeah,
research.
research. Like I really
Hmm.
wanted to understand. That was a big part of
Okay.
being why I took sociology, why I got my master's in public health, was not just wanting to take care of patients one at a time. And being a
Hmm.
doctor, when you're in front of your patient, you're taking care of one at a time, but looking big picture, understanding why is this happening at this population level? What are the solutions? So I wanted to have some research background into
Wow.
how to understand problems, how to solve them, and then how to
Mm.
spread those solutions. Because again, as a doctor, you're kind of one at a time, each patient. But when
Hmm.
you're trying to figure out, well, how do you solve this on a bigger
On a
scale?
bigger
That's where
scale.
public health comes in and
Right.
helps you to kind of look at a problem differently. And then think beyond medical care, which is like prescriptions, surgery,
Mm.
procedures. We're thinking education, community.
So you were like patient oriented.
Yeah.
These days people do MD, MBAs.
Oh yeah, they get
They want to
MBA.
get to the C-suite.
Oh yeah, but
You were like
it's-
trying to get to the people on the ground.
I was, and looking at solutions at both people and policy. I learned, I
Right.
didn't think I liked health policy, laws, or money. I was like, I don't want to deal with any of that business stuff. But you learn a lot about what drives the changes you need, and so it's definitely been a blessing to have.
Where did you grow up before Englewood? I'm just trying to see where your
Born and raised in
experience
Englewood,
was.
so like I said, my
Really?
mom was from Jersey City. Both my parents were from there, so my grandmother was
Oh,
there. She was one of 11 siblings, so we had a big family. Just
wow.
did all of our family gatherings there in Jersey City.
You used to
So
come to Central Park for lunch on
no,
weekends.
that's Manhattan. It's not far away. So you go into New York City for some fun events, but I'm a Jersey girl, so I
Okay.
spent most of my time there. And then really, like I said, kindergarten and high school was.
Holland Tunnel and all that.
Yep, all of that. It's nice to grow up near.
Okay.
Now that I'm raising my boys here in Mississippi, it's a big trip to kind of get into the
It's an
city or
expensive
see a
trip.
Broadway play. But I got to grow up around a lot
It's
of that.
expensive to live in New Jersey.
Pizza and hot dogs. I'm very particular about my pizza and hot dogs in that
Interesting.
area.
So
yeah.
you moved to Mississippi after residency at Yale.
Yep.
Am I correct?
Mhm.
So what happened?
Oh well, yeah. I actually did another like a fellowship program after Yale's called the Robert Johnson Clinical Scholars Program. So that's 2 additional years after residency,
Oh, wow.
which focuses on health services research, health policy, and I did that at Yale. So it was 2 more years.
Oh,
I was
wow.
at Yale doing that program, and I got another master's degree, really focusing on maternal health, research and policy. And I had, during residency, I did I flew to Mississippi because my roommate from medical school was from Mississippi.
Okay.
So
Dr. Melton? Or
this was Janelle. Her name was Thompson at the time.
not the radiation oncologist?
Nope,
No,
nope.
okay.
She was a pediatrician, but Brown University in Tougaloo in
Of course,
Mississippi
the
have a
relationship,
partnership.
right.
So that's where I had a lot of friends from Mississippi in med school. I flew down to be in her wedding. I thought I was going to be
wow.
there for 24 hours, fly in and out, and my husband to be hit on me, and that's how
you
that.
met him
I
there.
met him while I was here, and we dated long distance. He
That is
thought,
so impressive.
yeah, we thought he was going to come to Connecticut. That's where I was. I thought we were going to get married, live in Connecticut, but I ended up working with the State Department of Health one summer.
Okay.
While I was doing the fellowship and working on infant mortality, and it was such a meaningful experience that I was like, well, I want to stay. So I credit him for bringing me, but it was I kept us here. So I ended up, that's what started my job with the health department.
Wow.
And,
So your mom has relocated.
she has. She
to
just moved to
Mississippi.
Mississippi.
I hope it's not a culture shock for her.
She loves it, she's really enjoying it. The stress level, it's a less stressful
stress,
lifestyle.
right.
When I fly back up to the Northeast, I love it, but it's a fast pace, crowded. You take care of your family doctor, so her diabetes numbers she has diabetes now, so her numbers are perfect, like much better in Mississippi, just the stress being less.
Wow.
She has a garden and she enjoys it, so
But
gets to be
how
with
about
the
your brother?
grandchildren.
Is he going to move over? Or?
No, he's in North Carolina, so he
Okay.
has a family out there.
He's not
now.
too far.
No,
I mean, 12 hours
she's
maybe.
doing good, yeah.
10 hours. Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
And what did he end up studying or doing? Or
My brother has a much different path than
Okay.
I did. He actually struggled with a lot more depression, actually alcohol abuse. Like, he went through a lot of that, and he recovered from that, and he
Okay.
became a recovery counselor and was
Wow.
really able to turn that around for him, and
Praise
that's what
God.
he's doing now. So, yeah, it was a huge blessing because I know
wow.
we lived, for a long time, it was like night and day, my experience and his, what he was struggling with. But, after those years, he went through recovery and then, was inspired to help others, which
Wow.
he's done. And he, so he's doing well now, married,
Awesome.
he's got kids, so
Yeah.
he's doing good.
Do you think your father's mental health was something that affected him?
Oh, yeah, I think both, boys and girls react to these things differently as kids, and I think for sure it was had a big impact on both of us. But definitely, you went through a lot as a kid when you go through that.
Right.
But which is not a lot of people don't talk about mental health,
Right.
especially in our communities and but it's out there. I mean, I can't tell you how many people I know now. They're like, oh yeah, me too. My
And there's a
uncle, my aunt."
genetic correlation too.
Yeah, it was different for him. But
You could-
my mic
Okay.
dropped, so maybe you could pause.
Yeah.
I know you can edit, right? But it was different problems, but I think thankfully, he has, yeah. Okay, I'll start over. Yeah, it was different problems from him and my dad, but it definitely provided a foundation that we went through, and I think made us stronger in a lot of ways. So.
Okay. Awesome. So let's talk about faith in your home growing up.
Yeah.
Was faith something your mom emphasized growing up? Bible reading,
Yeah,
prayer?
yeah, we grew up Lutheran, which was interesting, which I'm not that now, but it was a different, it was just a little quieter, a little calmer. Isn't the, what I follow now, but, having that church community was a big part of our family, and going fellowshipping on Sundays, vacation Bible school, like
Was
studying.
it a predominantly Caucasian congregation?
It was pretty mixed.
Mixed
Yeah, like
in New
in that
Jersey.
part of New Jersey. It was
Okay.
actually a pretty mixed church, as it was, but it was a strong community,
Okay.
of loving people, and I think they
So
taught
like
you
the-
some prayer. And because Lutheran's a little like, it's different from Catholic, it's not, but it follows the same thing. You memorize
Okay.
certain scripture, you memorize certain
Sing
things.
hymns.
You sing hymns, and a lot of those scriptures I still remember prayers.
wow.
I remember my whole life. But when I grew older, I felt like I got saved again, kind of through high school, and found Christ for myself, as opposed to something you're doing with your family on Sundays. But this was more like your own path, and so.
So did you have
Yeah.
did you have any concerns? A lot of young women say that when they get married, if their mom had maybe marital issues, they are almost paranoid, or should I use the word, they are projecting their mom's marriage on their marriage.
No.
So they treat their husband almost with the same, maybe the same paranoia,
No.
hoping not to make the same mistake. So did you have any of that
I
issues?
didn't. Again, with my dad having more of that medical concern, I looked at that
It
as the
wasn't-
cause.
okay.
And then and kind of the story that brought me and my husband together just felt like God was a part of that, like everything just working out with me coming to Mississippi and having this long distance relationship. I really felt from the beginning, very early on, that his hand was on our marriage, and I still feel that way. So I never really thought about that. I certainly wouldn't.
A lot of young ladies,
Yeah,
it's something
I can understand.
they can. So I just want to make sure that's not. Did you ever have opportunity to travel abroad, missions,
Yeah.
or do?
Not mission work, but I love travel. I decided somewhere in middle school I wanted to learn to speak Spanish for my
Wow.
patients. So I started studying Spanish in middle school. My first year of college, I went abroad to Costa Rica for the first time just to study. By my senior year, I did a whole semester in the Dominican Republic,
Wow.
where I went to college there for almost 4 months, lived there, which was a pretty intense experience, and then
In
medical school
in Dominica.
Dominican Republic.
Oh,
Yep,
okay.
yeah, I lived in
Okay.
Santo Domingo, and it's immersion experience, so that was a big
Okay.
deal. And then I went to
Not the
Ecuador.
resort part.
No, we waved high
Not
at a
in
resort once, but you were yeah.
Poconocos or something
No,
like that.
Punta Cana.
Punta
Yeah,
Cana.
no,
No,
I
not
wasn't
that
in
part.
Punta Cana. It was definitely just living in the city. But and then I did Ecuador in medical school. So
Wow.
and most of those were by myself. I just like to travel, but it definitely helped me learn Spanish, which is a big thing. Very useful when you're in practicing medicine. So
Wow.
yep.
Any role models in your, I don't want to say your age, but growing up?
Yeah, I mean, of course, my mother, she's an amazing woman. Just seeing all that she went through. She was a great teacher, gave me a lot of my study skills,
Wow.
because you definitely need those, taking them in. When I was, the volume, medical school is, some of it's complicated, right? Like biochemistry or pharmacology, but some of it's just sheer memorization, and you need a lot of discipline and focus. And so my mom, my grandfather were big role models for me. But absolutely, along the way, there were so many, individuals, doctors. There's one doctor, her name is Bronson Tucker Edmonds, and she was just 2 years above me at Brown, a black woman who I just follow her. Like she was just someone, she was doing public health, she was going into OB, and she actually ended up doing the same fellowship that I did. I didn't even know she did, but every time we bump into her, I'm saying, I'm just following in your footsteps, because she was just a role model for me too, and just, you never know who's like watching you. She didn't think I was like there in college, kind of seeing what she was doing and inspired by it, and but there's so many people along the way just like that. And coming to Mississippi, Dr. Michelle Owens, like she was a maternal fetal medicine specialist here, and again, just seeing all the work she's done, just kind of, you don't see yourself in these kind of roles. I didn't do all this to get positions or accolades. I'm just trying to gain skills to take care of people, but it's great to have role models to give you that confidence that you can do.
One of the things about runners, the Bible talks about, you must be disciplined to receive the prize. So, you had a lot of discipline to achieve what you achieved. So we have a lot of our viewers who are in their 20s, about to go to college. What kind of discipline would you advise them? I mean, you could give up a long time in college to get a 4-year degree, or go and do a business degree, or you could just give up on your dreams to pursue the easy way out.
Yeah.
So what would you say to that person who says it's too expensive, it's too hard, it's too long, I don't want to give up on my marital, and my reproductive, because a lot of people think if you go to medical school, you're going to not get married, not have kids, not live a life, owe hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
So.
I don't know how people do it without, if they think they're doing it without God. Like certainly prayer, having a relationship with God, you just know your purpose. Like, so if you feel like you're plugged in with Christ and God, and that He's aligned your steps, then you just know if you're facing a challenge, that's all it's going to be, and He's going to get you through it. I mean, that certainly was all the way there. Like, I never doubted. I just kind of knew I was going to be a doctor. I never had any second thought. And there were only a few times in my life where I had friends or somebody, most of my friends, even if they weren't themselves on the right path, were respectful that that's what I was doing. And only a couple of times I was like, you're trying to get me to do something that's against my mission.
Oh, really?
And then I'm like, we can't be friends. But for the most part, having that faith in God and knowing that if His purpose for you is to do this, then He's going to get you through it and make a way. And that's all I've ever encountered. Like, I just found like, even when life was tumultuous for me, almost that path to becoming a doctor was very clear. And it wasn't, I never, wavered from it.
And I think people need to know you faced your own challenges in your career.
Oh,
I mean, you
yeah.
failed exams. Am I wrong? Or
I
you
don't
took
know
some.
if I ever failed
Oh well, not
it.
so,
But yeah, no, it's hard. Like,
well, you face some.
Yeah, you face challenges. Like, I dropped out of genetics. I'm like, I can't do genetics in college. It wasn't always easy, and it was, you still made a way, and you face self-doubt. I think that's a big thing, is just doubting yourself.
Well, you persist.
And you persist. Yeah, it's definitely not always easy. Being an OB, I remember being an intern, and it's your first year, and it was towards the end of my first year, and a patient came in, and I didn't make the decisions, but she's the only one that I saw her, and the people who chose what to do with her, she never met, and they decided to send her home, and the next time she came back, her babies had passed inside, and it wasn't my decision to send her home, but I remember, hearing that she was really angry, and thinking it was me, and of course the guilt over what happened. It was devastating. I was like, gosh, can I do this? Like, babies don't make it in this field. It happens, and I don't think there was anything that maybe could have been done, but it was still devastating, and you kind of. I remember coming home and falling on the floor, just crying and being like, can I do this? But you get up and pray and, keep going. But certainly a lot of challenges. It's hard
How
work.
about combining all these things?
Yeah.
Mother, wife, physician,
it's hard.
public health, advocate.
Yeah.
So what's your counsel for young couples?
I mean, you have to prioritize your family, and you have to support each other. And there's certain things you try, like, there's always work. It will consume 24/7 of your life. But I always say, like, and this was even in college and med school, if like going to church for 2 hours is the difference between you passing and failing, then something happened a long time ago that you are not gonna pass, right? Like, that little 2 hours is not gonna make the difference between, that means you didn't plan your week, your month. If that last 2 hours of your week you can't, give to God. So you have to plan to fit that in. It's the same thing with your family. If you kind of look and you're like, I don't have time for this. And you have to rest. You have to relax if you're not caring for yourself. So, that was something for me. It was just, after exams, we always planned some fun.
Okay.
Always me and my roommate. It was a big thing to look forward to.
Wow.
We called it
This same Thompson lady?
Yeah. We called it a JPFD, a Jam-Packed Fun Day. So we would plan our little Jam-Packed Fun Days after all our exams, try to make the church on Sunday. I would go in scrubs and fall asleep, but it was important for me to go. And with your family, the same thing. You can work 24/7, but you make time. I mean, my boys are here with me, and they get to see it, and I think they enjoy it. But for married couples, you certainly have to support each other. I feel like your seasons are different sometimes, where sometimes it's your partner's season, and you got to support them, and sometimes it's your season.
Share the burden.
And yes,
we're going to be back. Dr. Collier is going to share on obstetrics, amazing statistics from the United States on maternal mortality. You don't want to miss it. Look forward to seeing you. Don't touch that dial. Jesus is Lord. Amen.